Hi guys, welcome to the Wrestling Retrospective, and in this video I'll be doing my top 10 wrestlers of the year, including some honourable mentions. So yeah, let's get into the list. So at number 10 I have Chris Statlander, and though it may seem ludicrous that I have put Statlander over Tony Storm, if you properly look at the years they've both had, I've put Statlander over Tony because Statlander has been around all year. She's put on three classics even, with Willow at All Out and then two with Mercedes Moné at World's End and Full Gear. And yeah, the consistency is always key, and though maybe it's been, you know, up and down for Statlander, we'll kind of get into that, she's done everything but hold a title this year in my opinion, and yeah, it just makes sense to have her, looking back, her above Tony Storm. Of course, the big thing for Statlander was her heel turn in May at Double or Nothing, though it didn't last long and kind of came to an end pretty abruptly. I think trying her as a heel was something that had to happen because it's been tried, and well, I think the way I see it is that it's been tried and they can say they've done it and it hasn't worked this time, but maybe they'll go for it again and under different circumstances, or maybe they'll just never turn a heel again and kind of say it as, oh, we made a mistake, we won't do it again. It's a similar thing, or at least I see it as a similar thing to Jeff Hardy's TNA 2010 heel turn, when it didn't really work, so they kind of put him back to being a babyface, and he's stayed like that ever since. But this year she's had 27 matches on AEW television, and I said 3 of the best ones. Record of 20 wins to 7 losses, which is great. 74% win rates, and arguably one of the best in the women's division. I will say, I wrote some of these like on different times, so some of them have winning percentages in and some of them don't. And then of course the feud of Willow Nightingale, something that I was hoping for from when Mercedes Moné came in, and we kind of knew that Willow was going to lose the TBS championship. I'm glad that they kind of gave her something to do afterwards, which was obviously the feud of Statlander. And yeah, I thought out of the multiple matches they had, obviously the best one was the last one they had at All In, and it may have dragged on a little bit longer than it should have. And there was also like a match for the Mexico, and it was like a AAA Women's Championship or something that never happened, even though Statlander won a normal contenders match or the eliminator match for it. But through her being face and heel, her and Willow were in 12 different matches together, whether it be tag team or as opponents. And yeah, I feel like if you kind of build them back up again as a team and as friends, which they seem to have teased on Dynamite and Rampage and Collision more recently, I can see it kind of being one of those kind of on and off feuds where Willow, if they were to turn or try Willow as a heel, Statlander would be the one she turns on, and you could kind of have that as a up and down thing throughout AEW history almost, if they were to stay there. But yeah, in conclusion, Chris Statlander hasn't been the most vocal point of the women's division this year, with the likes of Mariah May, Tony Storm and Mercedes Moné around, but I feel like through some trial and errors she's actually had a pretty good year overall, and I feel like in 2025 it's only going to improve a lot more, but I'll get into that in a kind of later video. But yeah, for me, she's had a pretty decent year, and she's made the top 10 for my wrestlers of the year. At number 9, I have Bron Breakker, and the words that come to mind when I think of Bron Breakker is positive trajectory. You know, he started the year in NXT, where in my opinion he kind of overstayed his welcome, and you know, it felt like he was going to be main roster set, at any moment. But yeah, he went on to form the War Dogs with Baron Corbin, and they went over really well. They were very, very popular. They won the Dusty Cup, and they would also go on to become NXT Tag Team Champions. He then goes on to be a second round draft pick and a great Rumble showing, the 2-time Intercontinental Champion, with the past year he's been 2-time Intercontinental over the past year, with really good matches with the likes of Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, Ludwig Kaiser and Sheamus. And yeah, just like as I said, the trajectory of Bron Breakker throughout the year has been phenomenal to see. To say that, like I said, he felt like a big fish in a small pond in NXT, and that's nothing against NXT. He just felt so much bigger than that, and when he went down, I say down to the tag division, like tag team wrestling this year has been pretty downplayed. Yeah, it felt like we were kind of losing him a little bit, but since coming up to the main roster, he has been absolutely killing it. And yeah, in my opinion, 2025 will continue like to be the main story of the mid-card division, and maybe go a little bit up into the upper mid-card, but I don't think he'll be main event just yet. I feel as if 2026 will be that transitional period where we'll see more kind of main event players who are newer faces come in, like your Bron Breakkers, your Carmelo Hayes, just to name a couple. And yeah, with the likes of John Cena, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Randy Orton, Kevin Owens maybe fading out, we can kind of have that newer generation come in, which I assume he will be like the face of, if you will. But yeah, in conclusion, Bron Breakker's had nothing but success to come out of this year, and within the first 8 months of being on the main roster and finishing off very strongly in NXT, I would argue he's had one of the best first years coming from NXT you've probably seen in a long time. And yeah, and he's done that without even a character change as well. And I know he's had like multiple theme changes and stuff, which would suggest a character change, but no, he's played pretty consistent character-wise. And yeah, I mean, 2025, I feel like he's just going to stay on that positive trajectory, and yeah, it's going to be fantastic for him. At number 8, I have Drew McIntyre, as maybe controversial as that might be, as a lot of people maybe have him as number 1 for Wrestler of the Year. For me, Drew has had a career resurgence this year, and if it wasn't for kind of disappearing at times, I know he's had personal stuff, so you can't really help that, and losing very important matches, though no fault of his own, he will definitely be higher on this list. You'll hear me say multiple times over the course of these end of year videos, but Drew has been the personification, along with a certain lady that we'll go more into depth in the Breakout Star video, Liv Morgan. She has been just the justified heel persona, has worked so well for him, and yeah, for most of 2022 and some of 2023, he just spent time and time again getting screwed over, and then we saw it again in 24 with the feud with CM Punk. That, like, you know, it makes sense that he is going to be pissed off with everybody and kind of demand all these high accolades that he probably should have already had. And yeah, all that came to a head in the build to the Royal Rumble, going back and forth with good old Pepsi Phil, CM Punk, and the feud that was filled with bracelets and memes and hypocrisy and violence that followed was hands down feud of the year. And yeah, it resulted in WWE's second best match of the year, in case, you know, just to give a sneak peek as to what is on the next video, which is matches of the year. It isn't number 2 on that list, but it's the second WWE one on there. Yeah, like Punk and McIntyre arguably brought legitimacy back to the Hell in a Cell stipulation after a very long time of it just being oh, it's October, or oh, it's June kind of stipulation. They went out there and they beat the shit out of each other. And yeah, I mean, like, shoot bleeding a lot. The back bump on the stairs was brutal. And yeah, just they went out there, they killed each other, and yeah, he disappeared for a bit after that, which I think makes sense, selling the effects of the cell, and then coming back and just targeting the bloodline again, which I know on paper a lot of people might see as very repetitive, but it makes sense that he wants to just murder those guys, as they were costing him world title matches before Punk was doing it and making it cool, you know what I mean? But yeah, in conclusion, he has brought life back into his career, and you can tell he's absolutely loving it. You can tell he's like having so much fun doing all this stuff in his career now. And for me, it wouldn't shock me if 2025 saw him return to not only the main event scene, but the World Championship scene as well, and being a champion. And yeah, I can't wait to see that happen, as it has felt like Drew McIntyre is due a World Championship sooner rather than later. At number 7, I have Bryan Danielson, and the final run, or the final countdown, if you will be the highlight in any AEW history book or anything like that. And it has been full of quality matches, memorable moments, from the matches with Okada to the return of Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness story, and the final countdown stuff he did with everyone singing at Wembley. It's just been full of moments and great matches. The list of opponents has been dream-like, and the rematches have been absolutely fantastic. And, you know, some of them were left to the imagination, or were they? You know, you've got the likes of Okada, Moxley, Zack Sabre Jr., Swerve, Ospreay, Eddie Kingston, Shibata. Just like a list of opponents that is second to none this year, apart from maybe one person, Swerve, who has had a plethora of great opponents. His world title run probably wasn't what people wanted it to be exactly, but I think it worked for what it was, and it served its purpose, which was to give Danielson that kind of final world championship run before dropping the title and kind of going off into the sunset, I thought, for a long time. But apparently he's going to be back by next July, or by this July, by this time of recording. But you know what I mean, which I wasn't best impressed with. If you watched my stream with Bobby's breakdowns and about what we wanted to see in 2025, I said I didn't want to see Danielson at all this year, and yeah, that's kind of not going to be the case. But yeah, I mean, in conclusion, Danielson's final run, especially near the end, did feel really special. The match at All In that I went to, like, I was going in supporting Swerve, and by the end of the match I was supporting Danielson, and yeah, it just resulted in great matches and greater moments. And you know, there's not much more to say on Danielson's year other than that. At number 6, I have Damian Priest, and what a year Priest has had compared to 2023. He's cemented himself as a main eventer now. He's been world champion, as well as having top feuds with Gunther and Finn Balor, and an all-time cash-in at Wrestlemania that, you know, people will remember for a long time, not only for the CM Punk meme, but just as a moment itself was fantastic, and has stayed incredibly consistent, which is very difficult sometimes in WWE. But yeah, good matches with Rollins, McIntyre and Gunther. Naturally turned babyface due to fan reaction, which is always the best way to turn babyface in my opinion. And yeah, leaving the Judgment Day was probably the best thing for him, and hopefully he can keep this kind of positive momentum going into the new year, kind of stay in the main event, or maybe go, I don't want to say down to the upper mid card, but maybe take a step back, possibly going for the Intercontinental Championship, as it's the only title he's not won in the singles division, and it would make him a Grand Slam champion, which would be a massive achievement for him. And yeah, I haven't really got much to say. Like, I think when it comes to Damian Priest, everyone kind of has the same thought process when it comes to him, or at least from the people I've spoken to, they do. And like, in conclusion, the trajectory of Priest from tag champion, or will he, won't he, Money in the Bank winner, you know, when he's cash in and stuff, to being a certified main eventer is great to watch week by week. And yeah, as I said, I hope he keeps the momentum up and, you know, finishes the feud with Balor fairly quickly into the new year, so then he can concentrate on bigger and better things in staying in the main event scene, going back to the World Championship, and maybe even, as I've said, winning the Intercontinental Championship, which would be huge for him. But yeah, I said, like, I don't know, I kind of cleared up everything there that I said, like, or everyone cleared up what everyone kind of thinks with Damian Priest and kind of the year he's had and the accomplishments he's gone over. There's really not much else to say. So yeah, Priest is probably one of the, I wouldn't say he's been a breakout star just because, you know, he was Money in the Bank holder this year, but I mean, if as far as breakouts go, he has definitely been up there. At number 5, I have Roxanne Perez, and in my opinion, she has been the best women's wrestler, not only in NXT, but in WWE overall. Like, you know, she's probably, I think she's been the most dominant champion in WWE as well, not just NXT. And yeah, just going from the ultra smiley babyface, which is a gimmick I've never really seen go anywhere other than with maybe Willow Nightingale, but the heel turn at Roadblock was probably the best thing that's happened to her since joining NXT, and it's probably been the best thing to happen for the whole women's division in my opinion. And then yeah, she's gone to have over a 250-day reign as NXT Women's Champion. She's had some of the best matches of the year in NXT. She's elevated multiple women to the main event level in NXT, and then kind of kept them there, doing massive favours for the likes of Lola Vice, Jada Parker and Thea Hale. And you know, her match with Thea Hale was absolutely fantastic at the Great American Bash, and proved that Thea can definitely make it without Chiz. You know, that's disbanded, though we haven't seen her since that disbandment. Is that a word? But anyway, but yeah, this version of Roxanne Perez will definitely make it onto the main roster, and to probably a top level of the main roster, maybe even making her way with her probably making her way to the main roster in the new year when the 3-hour shows begin. And it wouldn't shock me if we see her drop the Women's Championship at New Year's Evil, so that frees her up to go up to the main roster. And again, like, she's helping establish the newer talent in NXT, though they don't need establishing because of what they've done in the past. But again, there's argument of WWE fans that only watch WWE, and the likes of Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, and Delta needing kind of not proving themselves, but like having a win against Roxanne Perez for each of them is huge, especially like with the dominant reign that Roxanne has had. But yeah, in conclusion, Roxanne Perez has been like the MVP of the women's division in WWE, behind like only bigger talents with the likes of Toni Storm, Liv Morgan, Mariah May, and maybe Rhea Ripley. But yeah, she has brought some prestige back to NXT and the women's division in NXT. And yeah, it's going to be great to see her almost be the face of the next generation of the women's division coming up to the main roster. So yeah, for me, as I've said, Roxanne Perez, the best women's wrestler in WWE this year. At number 4, I have Gunther. Accomplishments alone this year will put Gunther very high on this list. You know, becoming the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in history, King of the Ring winner, and of course the reigning World Heavyweight Champion, and just massive accolades just to have in a single year. Now add the matches he's had and quality contests with the likes of Chad Gable, Dominic Mysterio, and I don't care what anyone says, the 2 matches he's had with Dom have been fantastic in my opinion, and probably the 2 best matches Dom has ever had. Sheamus, again, after 2023's fantastic WrestleMania run with Sheamus and Clash of the Castle a couple of years ago, having, again, more great matches on Raw with Sheamus. Randy Orton on pay-per-view, Damian Priest has managed to hold his own with Gunther as well, which I feel like was more of a proving ground for Damian Priest, and he more than showed up in my opinion. And not to forget the absolute banger he had with Sami Zayn at WrestleMania for when he lost the Intercontinental Championship, but looked probably better than Zayn as far as like how the year worked out for him in the long run. And yeah, there's potential for dream matches now for Gunther in the new year in 2025 with the likes of CM Punk, John Cena, and maybe even Roman Reigns coming after him, not just as world champion but just in general, and maybe some rematches with Seth Rollins, Ilya Dragunov, and Bron Breakker, for example. And yeah, somehow the match quality for him will go up in 2025, and I can't wait to watch that happen. But yeah, there's really not much more to say when it comes to Gunther. You know, everything he's done has just made him top 5 for like best wrestlers in the world. I think if it wasn't for one other certain American nightmare, he'd probably get like the best wrestler in WWE. I think Bell for Bell is probably the best wrestler. But yeah, for me, Gunther has had a fantastic year, and I expect him to be high on this list again next year. At number 3, I have Cody Rhodes. Again, someone who probably would get Wrestler of the Year for most people. But yeah, 2024 has been Cody's year in WWE. He's been the biggest vocal point by far. The highest of accomplishments was achieved by him, and he's been absolutely killing it. You know, the second Rumble win in 2 years, winning the WWE Championship, and still reigning it, I think, over 250 days. The first Crown Jewel champion, okay, not the biggest accolade, but it's still a first ever champion. And probably most impressively, beating Roman Reigns at WrestleMania over 1,000 days winning streak in singles. Yeah, there's zero doubts that he is WWE Superstar of the Year. And yeah, he has got it for me as well, like the 2 and 1 are AEW guys. But yeah, for me, though, you know, other than the match with Reigns, his matches they've been good, but they haven't been great. And the storylines have been a bit repetitive, but not as much as they were in 2023 when he just talked about Dusty Rhodes all the time. But, you know, I think as far as match quality goes, they've just not been as good in my opinion. And it's not just me hating on Cody because it's a popular thing to do or whatever. I genuinely think that Cody could have had some real stellar matches this year with people that he's faced, and it just hasn't been the case in my opinion. You know, I think back to Kevin Owens, Solo Sikoa, and probably the second match with AJ Styles. In my opinion, they weren't particularly good matches. They were just okay. The matches with Gunther and the first one with AJ Styles were very good. And yeah, it's just that case of like being a good wrestler and being a great wrestler as well as being a world champion. I feel like really puts into perspective of where you would fall on a Wrestler of the Year list. And Yeah, for me, I feel like he's not had the reign that people were quite expecting. I think they were expecting greatness as a world champion, and it just hasn't gone that way, in my opinion. Though it hasn't been bad either. It just has been fine for what it has been. But yeah, for 2025, I do suspect he will lose the WWE Championship at some point, and I'm very curious what a Cody looks like without the championship, and maybe even not chasing the championship either. Like, he kind of has feuds away from that kind of stuff, and there's plenty of people he can feud with and build good matches too. But yeah, I mean, we maybe even see the start of the Homelander arc that some people want to see as well. Like, I don't think it's going to happen in 2025. Maybe 2026 is when a heel turn will come. But yeah, I feel like it'd be very cliche for him to lose the WWE Championship and then immediately turn heel. I expect him will he would kind of go on a chase for a bit, and then maybe that frustrates him more, and then we get the Homelander heel turn type thing. But yeah, so for me, Cody Rhodes has been Mr. WWE this year, but I think it's just a case of match quality and the reign not being as good that puts him in the third position for the rest of the year, in my opinion. At number 2, I have Will Ospreay, and originally I did have him at number 3 and Cody at 2, but I revisited his matches this year, and just the quality of matches, especially on pay-per-view, there's really no doubting he's had a fantastic year. And even though it wasn't the win fest that I was quite expecting at the start of the year, especially when he joined AEW in March, I think it was, he has really been second to none, bell to bell, in my opinion. And yeah, the thing is, he started the year finishing up with New Japan and doing a couple of TNA dates, but having some awesome matches with the likes of Okada. He had the United Empire versus Bullet Club match, and he had the fantastic match with Josh Alexander and TNA. And yeah, I'm confident to say there was a certain anticipation for him when he officially became All Elite, and my word, he did not disappoint at all, and he very quickly was elevated to someone who was very heavily relied upon by AEW to put on stellar matches on TV and on pay-per-view. He started how he meant to go on, with a match of the year candidate against Takeshita at Revolution, and then immediately did another one with his back then friend Kyle Fletcher on the first Dynamite he was on. And yeah, since then after that, he went on to have the fantastic match with Bryan Danielson at Dynasty. He went on to win the International Championship, having great matches with the likes of Kyle O'Reilly, Daniel Garcia, Pac, and Ricochet through both reigns he had with the championship. The feud with MJF, having 2 very, very, very good matches at All In, and the match at Dynamite 250 where him and MJF went 59 minutes 58 seconds for the International Championship. And then ending the year not having the best performance in the Continental Classic and eating a couple of losses there, but getting to the finals anyway, having a great match with Okada, even though he was bloodied up and everything, and having a very good match with Kyle Fletcher again as well. But yeah, in 2025, the consistency of quality I expect will continue with him, and hopefully some more dream matches, and certainly highly anticipated rematches with hopefully the likes of Takeshita, Okada when he is fully 100% healthy, and maybe even Kenny Omega as well. I would absolutely love, but it wouldn't shock me if he ended up at the top of this list next year, because at the end of the day, I think Will Ospreay is probably the best wrestler in the world right now, even though he didn't top this list. And yeah, I just always expect the highest of qualities from him, and I don't think that'll stop in 2025. And finally, last but certainly not least, at number 1 I have Swerve Strickland, and for me it was never going to be anybody else. Swerve has had next to the perfect year, and some would say he'd drop off at the end of the year, but losses don't always mean bad things, and the people that he's lost to, he has actually helped massively in that case, with Danielson becoming world champion, Lashley showing that he is very, very dominant, and shows that he's going to be treated very differently in AEW, and Hangman kind of had a win coming against Swerve, and it was a beautifully violent way to do it. And yeah, for me, it just truly shows that wins and losses don't really mean a lot when it comes to professional wrestling. And yeah, I mean, the Swerve Strickland the rise of Swerve Strickland even started in 2023, but it peaked in 2024 and 100% culminating in winning the AEW World Championship at Dynasty. And from there, he showed that he can not only go in the ring, but he can tell great stories and build to even better matches. With him kind of being very diverse as far as like whether he was going to be face, whether he was going to be heel, and it kind of depended on who he was feuding with and all that kind of stuff. But having just a who's who of matches with legends and people for the future, and just kind of almost, it felt like nearly everyone had faced Swerve this year, with the likes of Rob Van Dam, Jeff Hardy, Samoa Joe, Claudio Castagnoli, Christian Cage, Will Ospreay, Okada, Ishii, Danielson, Hangman, Shelton Benjamin, and Bobby Lashley, all within the last 12 months, is, you know, just to name a few of probably some of the highest names in wrestling. And yeah, getting wins against the majority of them as well, and it's just very, very impressive. And in 2025, I assume the path back to the World Championship will begin, and probably getting wins back against the likes of possibly Danielson in a rematch. Bobby Lashley, I assume he will get a win back there, and then they'll maybe have a rubber match down the road as well. I'd love to see him have a rematch with Will Ospreay as well. And yeah, just maybe even having a meeting with a certain bout machine as well would be awesome to see. But one thing is for sure, Swerve will 100% stay within the realm of the main event scene and show that he was completely underutilized in WWE. And yeah, just him being one of the faces of AEW is going to be something we'll see for a very, very long time to come. So those are my top 10 wrestlers of the year. Do put down in the comments why you disagreed with me. No, I was joking. No, who you thought was wrestler of the year in your opinion, whether it be just WWE, just AEW, or both of them put together, or anybody else for that matter. And yeah, we can have a good discussion about that in the comments. And yeah, I hope you all had a very good new year and Christmas and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, a lot of content coming in the new year, you know, as well as this top 10. There's top 10 matches coming out in a couple of days. There's my Royal Rumble entrance that I'd like to see coming out. There's Breakout Star of the Year and my predictions for who are going to be stars in 2025, as well as a ton of Royal Rumble content coming up, all building up to the end of the month where we will get the Royal Rumble. So yeah, a lot of stuff coming to the channel. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope you all had a great, great new year. Hope you all stick around. And yeah, if you do like the video, give it a like, obviously. And yeah, do hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.